The president wants to make fundamental change in our economy, and he feels coming out of the pandemic is exactly the time to do that.
So we've just spent 20 years in Afghanistan, and it seems like we learnt nothing. Despite this complete failure in nation building, now the Biden administration thinks they can remake not only the economy, but society itself. Yet how can anyone hope to refashion our society if they completely misunderstand how it was woven together in the first place? Ever since Karl Marx, people on the political left saw society only as a power struggle between the haves and the have-nots. Marx had thought the key to civilization was in the means of production. However, the left has since rejected that and have come to realise that it lies instead in language. Yet they never questioned the core tenet of Marx, that society is solely based on power. Instead, they seek not to find the foundation and the conditions of truth, but to exercise power for the purpose of social change. For those that believe the world is solely based on power, words are nothing but tools to gain it, and therefore their meanings are irrelevant. Which is why more and more megalomaniacs in mainstream media are flat out lying to advance their dystopian control over people, using fear and disgust. If calling people racist or Nazi gains you power, as is happening here in Victoria and elsewhere in 2021, then it is deemed justifiable. These words and their meanings are important, as they are the fabric that holds our civilization together. It has taken millennia, but we have used language to get beyond tribalism. Yet the fault many make is they see it as imperfect, because it isn't a scientific formula. Language is, after all, 70% non-verbal, but the real beauty of language is that it isn't static, like a monolith. It is constantly in flux along with our civilization. This language seeps through our society into our subconscious and controls much about our lives, more than we would ever realise, allowing us to cooperate and prosper for the benefit of all. John Searle claims that if you can control the language, you can go a long way to controlling society. However, any would-be revolutionaries would need to change what he vaguely refers to as a deep background, beliefs, hopes and fears. Otherwise, anything they do is temporary, as civilization has a habit of reverting back to something akin to what had come before. Jordan Peterson argues for a pattern of being, something that is deep in our collective subconscious, and it can be identified resonating over millennia in our stories from all over the world. It is something buried deep within us, and yet at the same time it's bigger than any one individual. And this is where the fundamental misunderstanding of society stems from. Thinking that it is operating at the level of the individual. Instead, it is operating outside the individual at the societal level, spanning hundreds of generations. So the point is, you not only have to convince the people of today, but you also have to convince those of the future, using the past as your guide. Otherwise, it's all for naught. Thus, as Plato discovered long ago in his great work The Republic, there can be no utopia, not even in theory. Social change is possible and can be done, but it usually takes generations, and even then it must resonate with the people subconsciously for it to be lasting. So that is why Plato had no success creating an ideal society. Likewise in the Soviet Union, and more recently the Arab Spring and the disaster in Afghanistan. And why also the Biden administration's efforts at building American society back better will also end in not only complete failure, but could spell disaster for America and the free world.